Hello and welcome. My name is Zafar Iqbal, and you're watching the Mojo story. Prime Minister Modi has thanked US President Donald Trump for his Diwali greetings, highlighting the shared commitment of India and the US to combat terrorism. Trump, who celebrated Diwali at the White House, reiterated that Modi had assured him India would reduce Russian oil imports. To discuss more on this, we're joined by an eminent panel today. Let's welcome our guests. We're joined by Major General Dhruv Katoj. He's a defense expert, director, India Foundation. We're also joined by Ambassador Ashok Sajjanar, the former ambassador. Welcome to Mojo Story, sir. If I may start with you, Ambassador Sahab, what is the sense that you make? The two leaders did speak, but Prime Minister, but Trump again reiterated that the question of Russian oil came up. Although Prime Minister Modi did tweet about it, but it was more categorical. He didn't mention anything about Russian oil. But we're seeing these repeated statements from Trump. Speaking about Russian oil earlier, he said that India has decided to stop buying the Russian oil altogether. What is the sense that you make of this?
Yes, thank you very much, Zafar, for having me on your show. The way I look at it is that it is good that the telephonic conversation took place. That means both the sides are in conversation with each other. India US relationship partnership is an important partnership. It's an important partnership for India. It's an equally important partnership for the United States.
Right.
So I think the recent hiccups that we have seen, the recent wrinkles that we have seen as a result of differences on the trade deal between the two sides, I think it's good that there is conversation happening at the highest level, and that message will definitely go through from there to the negotiators. So that is a positive movement, starting from the 17th of September, when Prime Minister Modi received another call from President Trump on his birthday. And there he, congratulating him on his 75th birthday. So, that was a good discussion because, basically these are pegs on which you hang, that is an opportunity for the two leaders to have discussions with each other, conversations with each other, and somewhat broader than, just the basic purpose of that particular conversation. And I think here also it must have happened as far as we are concerned. I'm sure the Prime Minister, as has been mentioned, there are 2 points that he has mentioned. One is both the countries are democracies and they will work together to illuminate hope in the world. And the second is that, the security cooperation between the two sides is very important, and it is both the sides will cooperate to deal with the issue of terrorism in all its forms. This is the language, this is the formulation that India has always used. So I think as far as we are concerned, this is the basic fundamental content of the bilateral conversation. What Mr. Trump has said, we have seen that there have been a large number of comments coming right from the time of 10th of May, when Operation Sindoor was happening, and he said that he is the one. He spoke about trade, and trade was the one issue on the basis of which he was able to get both India and Pakistan to stop the hostilities. We know for a fact that it is not an accurate version. That number one, Mr. Trump never spoke to Prime Minister Modi. It was only
Right.
JD Vance who spoke to him. And there was no mention of trade, as has been repeated ad nauseum by our side also at different levels, whether it is, the Prime Minister speaking to President Trump on the 17th of June when he was attending the G7 meeting, and subsequently by Dr. Jaishankar, the External Affairs Minister,
Right.
in the Parliament, also by official spokesperson. So I think we know that as far as President Trump is concerned, he is not very factually accurate, if I can put it mildly, and he is like you yourself mentioned last time. He had said that he spoke to Prime Minister Modi. There is no record of such a conversation having taken place between the two sides, and our official spokesperson said made a statement to that effect. And secondly, he said at that time that we are stopping, India has promised to stop all oil imports from Russia. And right now, he said that, scale it down very significantly. I think
Yes.
India's position has been quite clear and firm that our companies will buy oil from wherever they can get it at the most competitive prices, and our security, energy security, and the well being of our people will be fully safeguarded. So I think that is the
Right.
position that I see as far as the conversation is concerned. So, final two words: a good development, a positive development, and I think as far as India is concerned, it's been able to convey its position on the issue of, I'm sure trade discussions would have taken place,
Yep.
how we need to get quickly to, some sort of a trade agreement, and also on counterterrorism, our position
Right.
has been very clear.
Right. General Katuch, before I go to you, let us hear the what exactly President Trump said when he spoke about the Russian oil. This is
Well,
exactly
we
what.
stand great, and the people of India, I love the people of India, and we're working on some great deals between our countries. I spoke to Prime Minister Modi today, as I mentioned before, and we just have a very good relationship. And he's not going to buy much oil from Russia. He wants to see that war end as much as I do. He wants to see the war end with Russia, Ukraine. And as you know, they're not going to be buying too much oil. So they've cut it way back, and they're continuing to cut it way back.
Not buying too much oil. Earlier, if you remember, General Saab, he said that India has stopped all the oil buying from Russia. That's what the Prime Minister has told him. Today, he says that India is scaling down on buying Russian oil. Do you think that diplomacy is really working? And Trump seems to be more informed today. He is, though, very unpredictable. Nobody knows what he's going to say tomorrow.
Thank you, Zafar. Zafar, as far as the US president is concerned, I think it's very difficult to predict what he will say tomorrow. I think, sometime back, the US delegation had come and we had an interaction with them. And they made it very clear to us that it's difficult for them also to predict what Mr. Trump will say. And they leaned towards the Republicans, the group which had come. So to that extent, I think it will be very premature to assess what President Trump will do. Regardless of the stand which he takes today, he could change it tomorrow. Having said that, I think, I'm looking at this entire situation of what President Trump is doing in a slightly different way. I look at it as the world order is changing and the new order really hasn't come up. And in the changing world order, America is losing relevance by the day. It is still the most powerful country,
Yeah.
but I think they realize it in their hearts that this phase is, gradually the power which they wielded for so long, especially after the dissolution of the Soviet Union, that is over, and a new world order is emerging, and India is going to be a very critical player in that new order. That is the first thing. I think the angst is, it is partly about oil, and I'll talk about that also. But I think it goes much deeper than oil. They, for a very long time, the US and the West expected India to follow their foreign policy dictates, if not in full measure, at least to some extent. And now they are finding the Indian polity is very firm on standing up for its own rights and for the rights of the Indian people. And that is a fundamental shift. India has changed. We have a strong polity and a strong economy to back it up. You may be very strong politically, but with a weak economy, sometimes you are forced to do things which are against your better judgment and interest. Now, those things don't prevail. So if America was thinking that we will tell them to do something and they will follow automatically, because once upon a time India was a colony. I think they have to revisit all those theories which they have which they have made. That is one. But oil is also important, and I think oil is important because the way I look at it, America was controlling the dollar was maintaining its relevancy because of the deal which they made with the Arab world, especially with Saudi Arabia, which led to the term petrodollar, where
Yeah.
all trade in oil was carried out by dollar, and that gave the dollar great prominence. Now, when we have shifted buying a major source of oil from Saudi Arabia, it has gone down from Saudi Arabia, and that share has gone to Russia.
Right.
That has created a tremendous change because the leverage which they had as far as the petrodollar is concerned is going down. And it is my assessment that within 2 to 3 years, say by 2029, the petrodollar will be a thing of the past and there will be more open trade in multiple currencies. I'm not sure which currency is going to dominate now. I don't think it is going to be any single currency, but the hegemony which the dollar enjoyed, that will go. And with that power, with the hegemony going, the US power also wanes. That is where the world order is changing. They are desperately trying to cling on to it. So this emphasis on not buying Russian oil means obviously that you're not going to buy oil from Venezuela, which is also under sanctions. So you'll have to come back to the Arab world, and the supremacy of the petrodollar can be maintained for a little bit longer. But that is not going to work. That's the whole point. It's not going to work. And
Yes.
they have also been stating, that this war is continuing because of India. Because India is buying Russian oil, Russia is continuing its war with Ukraine. Now, I've heard a lot of stupidity, but I think this particular statement, which has been made by quite a few US
Yes.
commentators,
In fact,
take
one of the advisors said that it's Modi's war.
is
He
Modi's
used the
war. Now,
exact word. Yeah.
I would like to remind all our American friends, this is not India's war. It is a war between two Western countries, both of them European countries, both of them belonging to one part of Europe, both of them who are white Christian, and that too white Orthodox Russian Christian. It is not our war by any stretch of the imagination. It is a local fight between two groups. I will call it a tribal war, and it is their war. India has got nothing to do with it. As the Prime Minister has so correctly stated multiple times, India is not, when they say which side are you on, we have very clearly stated we are on the side of peace. And I think that remains the stand. Our foreign policy, I think, has been charted most brilliantly during the last 3 to 5 years in these conflict-ridden times, and that is going to remain India's stance.
Right.
Zafar.
Ambassador Saab, two important things that General Saab touched upon. One is that it's no longer a unipolar world. That realization is slowly sinking in, and that is what is causing these jitters. The second, obviously, India's strategic autonomy. India will not be dictated to take its foreign policy decisions. It will do what is right for it. That is something that Americans are not able to digest.
I think that realization, that recognition has, been evident to all observers of geopolitics. And I think it is not only, it's been moving slowly towards multipolarity. It's not today that it is coming out of unipolarity and getting into multipolarity. I think the first big body blow as far as the unipolarity of the United States is concerned was on 9/11 in 2001. When in terms of its security and defenses, it always used to pride itself, that it is surrounded on all sides with water on two sides at least, the big ones, and on the other side, it has doesn't have adversarial countries, but it was struck even across the Atlantic. So that impregnability of the United States in terms of its security, that was shattered. And if something more was required, that happened in 2007, 2008, when you had the international economic and financial crisis. So the fact that unipolarity is way behind us and multipolarity is moving slowly but surely on its way. That I think has been evident to everyone. And I think as far as India's position in the world is concerned, that has also been evident. 10 years, 11 years ago, India was the 10th largest economy, 11th largest economy. Today, it is the fourth largest economy, going to be the third largest economy, and the fastest growing major economy. The first quarter we had 7.8% GDP
Right.
growth. Even IMF has upscaled, and many of these rating agencies have upscaled India's status. It is not only the economy; it is so many other areas. Whether it is in the area of military preparedness or military exports, in the area of science and technology. You look at the digital public infrastructure, reaching out to the people. More than half the transactions are done in India. So I think the world is taking note that whatever might be the future architecture of global politics, security, India is going to play a very important role. That is number one. Second is, you mentioned about the strategic autonomy. Again, India being such a large country today, it is in terms of the population 1.4 billion people. In terms of economy, have already spoken about it. In terms of engineers, in terms of talent, India is incomparable to any other country in the world. So I think India has always been, in terms of, it has been very zealous and jealous of protecting its strategic autonomy. Right after its independence, having been colonized for 200 years, India doesn't want to give its strategic choices to other countries. And
Right.
whether you look at 1971, what we did in terms of CTBT, the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, in terms of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, in terms of our you know nuclear test in 1998, you look at so many of the things.
Yeah.
India has always followed its own path. It has not been cowed down. Of course, the recent strengths that India has got in terms of economy, science, etc., that has further enhanced our capacity and capability to be able to withstand. So the point I'm making is that these are traits of India that have been there, for a long time to come. Whether it was, more recently, whether it was a few years ago, I think at the beginning of the current dispensation, 10, 11 years ago, S400. We wanted to buy S400. There was this, Katsa that had come from the United States,
Right.
but we didn't cover down. So it is not only now that we are purchasing oil from Russia that we are displaying our strategic autonomy. No, I think we have been displaying our strategic autonomy. Our foreign policy has been based on the precept of Vishwa Bandhu. We have good relations with across the board all countries, and we try to work in terms of what are the areas where we can collaborate, where we can take the partnership forward. Most of them we are able to do. Some of them, like Pakistan and others, who are see themselves only as anti-India. That is their whole stance. That there are problems, challenges. But if we have, let us say, if we have to face confrontation, even from a big power like China, India will stand up against it. But otherwise, you look at our foreign policy relations, whether it is with the Gulf or it is with the East Asian, Southeast Asian countries, with Europe, with the big powers, the
Right.
United States,
Yeah.
Russia. We have
You know,
maintained
it's,
very
it's,
close relations.
it's such a vital point that India thinks and believes strongly in its strategic autonomy. It's not going to give it up. General Katoch, one of the points that Ambassador Sahab was saying, he mentioned about S-400 weapon system, how crucial it proved during Operation Sindoor And it was India's firm stance that helped India achieve that weapon in the past. Had it not been India's firmness, that would not have happened. The question that many are asking, if India buckles under the pressure from Trump at the moment, what will stop Trump from asking India to stop buying Russian weapons in the next round? There is no end to it. So at some point, India has to assert, and that's precisely what India is doing.
Actually, Zafar, when we are looking at foreign policy, the point that you're economic, you have economic muscle gives you much more elbow room to play around. And
Right.
we are in a position now that I don't think any major power can dictate to us on what weapons to buy or which country to support or not support. I think those days are gone now. We have the capacity and the capability. We must remember that when we are looking, back at 1971, when Indira Gandhi was the prime minister, and we concluded certain treaties. The entire period of the 60s and the early 70s, India was we were not economically strong, and there was elements of food shortages, etc., and great dependency on the West. So foreign policy choices do get constrained. That is the reality. While you try to maintain to the best of your level your strategic autonomy, as the ambassador so correctly mentioned, especially in terms of nuclear autonomy, that is one stance which India didn't change, and it goes back to the 60s actually. From the time of Lal Bahadur Shastri on to Indira Gandhi, where on the nuclear issue, I think we maintained the stance. We played low key, but we ensured that we had that. We didn't sign the nuclear the test ban treaty. That was working against our interests. But having said that, when we are looking at the S-400 deal, I think the important thing was that it was the Indian capacity in Operation Sindoor over the last few years to have integrated all systems into one comprehensive air defense system, starting from the very lowest, that is the defense, which is up to 30 to 50 kilometers, going up to 200 kilometers, and going up to 800 kilometers, and
Right.
detection at 1,000, 2,000 kilometers. So this integration has taken place on multiple levels. One is from from the satellites, then from your own ground stations, then from all our radar installations and bases which the Air Force is looking after. And the Air Force has really has integrated it into one whole system, and which is further going to be enhanced over the next 2 years, because as of now, only certain vital targets and areas have been covered. But we have said, that this is going to cover the whole of India, and this process is going to take place in the next, say, I think by about next 5 years, the process will be completed. That is required. So it has been a very important. It has been a very important step, a very important journey, and now with India's economic heft and a very firm, a strong polity at the center, I don't think that any country will be able to force changes in India's policy choices. As far as oil is concerned, the ambassador very clearly stated, and I agree with him. It is not necessary that India buys oil from Russia. If required, we'll buy it from elsewhere. So let America sell it to us $5 cheaper than Russia. We'll change our choice. But if Americans think that we are going to buy our oil at a more expensive rate for somebody else at the expense of the Indian people, so that they can complete their foreign policy objectives and the Russia war, which they started and we have nothing to do with it, it's not our war. That made my initial statement. Then I think they need to revisit their own their own their own statements and their own methods of working. So India has changed. India has changed in unimaginable ways, especially since the last 10 years. It is a different India. And I think that is something which is so apparent to everybody. It is not simply what the foreign policy choices have been or the economic choices have been. It is the complete mindset of the ordinary Indian. What the ordinary Indian thought 10 to 12 years ago, he doesn't think that way anymore. He's a very ambitious person. The modern India is different today. And for the modern India, everything is possible. And I think it is that change also which is not liked too much by the West, who had a predominance of all intellectual properties and technologies, etc., etc. And India is coming in. So we are not going to be pushed around anymore. They will try, but I think we'll hold our own from henceforth. Zafar.
India has changed, but the fact is that America has also changed, and Trump's new love for Pakistan. He cannot have a conversation without the mention of Pakistan. And he did mention about Pakistan after the call with Prime Minister Modi, and he again spoke about the India Pakistan war. Let's hear what he said before I go to you, Ambassador Saab. This is what he said.
Americans, let me also extend our warmest wishes to the people of India. I just spoke to your Prime Minister today. We had a great conversation. We talk about trade, we talk about a lot of things, but mostly the world of trade. He's very interested in that. Although we did talk a little while ago about let's have no wars with Pakistan. And I think the fact that trade was involved, I was able to talk about that. And we have no war with Pakistan and India. That was a very, very good thing. But he's a great person.
Ambassador Saab, trade was involved. He's a great person. What do you make of such statements? It's a call on the occasion of Diwali, and he comes up with at least two statements, one on Russian oil and the other one on Pakistan. Again, seem to be obsessed with India-Pakistan war and the way that he thinks that he stopped the war using trade as a weapon.
We need to really keep it in mind that the United States will do with any country what it thinks is in its own interest. What are the impact, what is the repercussions, implications for any other country, that I think is not going to be an issue that is going to enter the minds or considerations of the United States. So, as far as Pakistan, the United States reaching out to Pakistan, I think one could, only speculate at this moment, as has been mentioned very clearly. It's very difficult to either guess what Mr. Trump is thinking or what he's going to say the next day. But I think one can only speculate. I think they're both strategic considerations, as also there are economic considerations, why he might be moving in that direction. Number one, as far as strategic considerations are concerned, whatever it might be, as far as Pakistan is concerned, it is very closely in the embrace of China. So maybe it wants to, get some distance between Pakistan and China, get it closer to itself. It knows that Pakistan has always been, a proxy state for it, and it has done its bidding whenever it has wanted it to do. Secondly, I think as far as this carrot of the critical minerals that Pakistan has dangled in front of Mr. Trump, and when both Shehbaz Sharif and Asim Munir had gone there, Mr. Asim Munir had gone like a salesman. He was carrying a box of some samples of these critical minerals which he was presenting to Donald Trump. Now, it is anybody's case whether there are any critical minerals which are of any use, any value, which Pakistan would be able to supply, because if they had been there, China has been in that region, in that area for such a long time, so many years. So it would definitely have, mined those, and it would definitely have used as a. But be that as it may, Pakistan seems to have convinced Donald Trump that we do have critical materials. And then there is the whole issue of the cryptocurrency, that it is a family of President Trump and Mr. Steve Witkoff, his son, who will be the beneficiaries, and Pakistan has rolled over, said, yes, we are willing to do that. On the strategic issues, when Asim Munir was first hosted in the White House in the Oval Office for lunch, you would recall, Zafar, and all your listeners and viewers would recall, that even there was the information minister of Pakistan. He was not allowed to come in for the meeting or for the lunch. Even the Pakistan ambassador to the United States was not allowed. It was just a one-to-one sort of interaction. And basically what is thought is that was just before the United States was about to attack Iran. You remember all those B-2 bombers had gone, and they had, bombed Isfahan, Natanz, and Fordow, and all those other places. and it needed Pakistan's concurrence and coming on to the same page if it wanted to use its airspace, and now then also if it wants a base, because the conflict with Iran is likely to continue. And if it wants a base, then Pakistan should be amenable to that, should be willing to do that. And the last point on the strategic aspect also is that since Mr. Trump has said that he's very keen to get the Bagram base, air base from Afghanistan, and Pakistan might have given this impression that they might be able to swing this the Pakistan way. So I think there are means, we shouldn't take it. He is reaching out to Pakistan that it is, to spite India, or it is acting against India in that sense. Whatever we need to do, Zafar, in my view, as far as Pakistan is concerned, we need to do ourselves, and I think we are very capable and we are very competent to be able to do that ourselves. So, as far as Pakistan is concerned, we convey our, as Prime Minister Modi has very rightly conveyed, that counter-terrorism, our only problem is cross-border terrorism, and there we need to stand together. It is not a Pakistan, it is as Pakistan says that Kashmir is the crux of the matter. Actually, it is terrorism which is the crux of the matter, and that is what we are trying to, tell the United States also. So the short point I'm making is that I think we are more than capable to, take care of ourselves. The last point, if you permit, Zafar, I will mention, we've had this excellent conversation, and I agree with my friend General Dhruv on everything about how India has changed and all that. I think one way in which India also has changed is the leadership. And leadership in taking forward any country is very, very important. I think the leadership we have today is a very strong leadership. It's a very determined leadership. It knows its mind. It has a vision. You can't push around that leadership. So while the country has grown stronger, I think the country also has confidence and faith in the leadership. And that is very important as we are moving from unipolarity towards multipolarity. For India to emerge as a significant pole in the multipolar world, I think leadership is required. And you look around the world, you will not find leadership. Leadership is at a premium in the world, and you don't see much of it in other countries around the world.
Right. That's a very important point.
Particularly in democracies, you don't see that in democracies.
Right. That's a very important point. Rare earth minerals, Bagram air base. General Katoch, one more point that I may add is the art of flattery. The way that Pakistan is flattering, Trump, nominating him for Nobel Prize, and then Shehbaz Sharif, right in front of Trump, again repeats that Trump should get a Nobel Prize. Now, India does not flatter. It is not in the DNA of Indian leadership to flatter. Perhaps that's another factor that is playing in all of this, because right from the beginning, the way that Pakistanis are approaching Trump, God knows if they have those minerals in their country or not, but they come with a small, box, and he shows it to Trump. How would Trump understand what is in it? But the art of flattery, that is something that is very, very evident here.
Zafar, I think when Shehbaz Sharif and Asif Munir, when they went to the United States, I have a slight different view. Well, people, and they all actually say that they were invited. I would rather use the word summoned. They were summoned. You see, they were told to come. They came, they sat on the dinner table, they were given certain orders, and they went back.
Yeah.
That is the hallmark of a servile state. And I think in that servility, that was the fawning which we saw of the Prime Minister of Pakistan in front of the President of the United States. And it has not gone down very well with the people of Pakistan. I think they all felt humiliated by that very show of flattery. However, having said that, it had a completely different impact on President Trump, who was very happy with it. And so to that extent, I think, let me say, the Pakistanis won the point with President Trump, but they have lost it with the people of Pakistan. And I think the country has come down. They look very. I mean, I don't get the right word for it, but it is not something which a proud nation would like to do. And I think for the people of Pakistan, it is one of the most humiliating periods of their life by which their leadership has gone and cringed in front of another leadership in the world stage. Ambassador Sajjan was talking about leadership and the primacy of leadership, and I totally agree with him. Today, it is leadership which will move the world. And the type of leadership which is being shown by Pakistan, I think, is not something which can be emulated anywhere. That is one. Number two, I don't believe it is really about those rare earth minerals and all that. I think the Americans, they know very well, and President Trump would have been briefed. If the Chinese can't get it, don't even think of the Americans getting it. The volatile situation in Pakistan, they have not been able to get through the China-Pakistan economic corridor for the last 10 to 15 years. And it's not going to happen for the next also. That is because there is no stability within Pakistan, and that stability is not going to come. Their interest, as the ambassadors rightly pointed out, is much deeper, and the Americans think it out. They are looking at really countering China and countering Iran. And Pakistan becomes a convenient place. They need their airspace, they need their ground bases, if required, especially against Iran. And I'm not really sure what we struck in Operation Sindoor in Noor Khan. Was it an American asset which was there? Nobody knows really. But if it was, then I think that entire structure which the Americans have created there has been destroyed. And that is something which has hurt the Americans. They need to rebuild it again, which is why that the push towards Pakistan. But Pakistan is simply a convenient, I won't like to use the word which is most unparliamentary, but it is something like a mop. You use it and you throw it away. Some cleaning cloth or something. It is a temporary sort of structure, and every action which I have seen of President Trump and Pakistan, I feel humiliated. It's cringe. So, I mean, what will the people of Pakistan be feeling? You don't want your leaders to go and start begging and bended knees on the world stage, on front of cameras to somebody, and that is exactly what their field marshal and the prime minister have done. I think it's a matter of shame.
That was the height of chamchagiri, as they say. Nobody can do better chamchagiri than that. I think no leader can match that. At least you have to give it to them, that no leader can match that level of chamchagiri. But we know the fact that on the issue of Palestine and Israel, the backlash in Pakistan, what's happened on the roads of Lahore, the TLP protests, all of that's happening in that country. So that's an extremely volatile country. All those things that I don't know whether Trump knows it or not, but Americans would be well aware of the developments that are taking place and their war with Afghanistan. Again, Trump was saying that he wants to end that war also, and it's easy for him to end that. That would perhaps be the 9th war that he will end. So all of that is happening, but we'll keep a track of this story. Thanks so much, General Katoch, Ambassador Saab, for joining us today and for sharing your thoughts. And thanks to our viewers for watching the Mojo story. Thank you.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support